Welcome to Wrestling with Heart, a podcast looking at pro wrestlers giving back to their community. Join me, Stanley Carr, as I interview wrestling's hottest names who use their platforms as entertainers to raise awareness and do community service. Hello and welcome to another edition of Wrestling with Heart. This is the show where we talk with professional wrestlers and professional wrestling personalities about their lives in and outside of the ring, as well as doing acts of charity work, community service, volunteering, and spreading positivity. We're always about the positive vibes here on the show, and with me right now, I've got a very special guest. He is an independent professional wrestler, wrestled across the country. Recently had the pleasure of introducing him in a battle royal. I'm pleased to welcome the one, the only Indiana Werewolf, Dustin Wolfe. Welcome, Dustin, to Wrestling with Heart.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Yeah, it's my pleasure. So tell me about your childhood. Where did you grow up?
Well, born and raised in Bloomington, Indiana, home of Indiana University, home of the Indiana Hoosiers. So I got a rep. My favorite hometown, home state, Indiana Hoosiers.
All right. Yeah, wrestling has definitely had a big following in Indiana. You know, Evansville, Indianapolis, so many great wrestling areas in Indiana. Tell me about your first exposure to wrestling. Did you just watch it as a kid or follow it later on? What was it? What was your story like?
Well, I watched it as a kid around the days of The Undertaker, 1-2-3 Kid, Mr. Perfect, Ric Flair, Kevin Nash, or Diesel, Razor Ramon. And growing up, I pretty much grew up during the New Revolution,
New generation era.
yes, where Shawn Michaels and all that, and pretty much around the time where Hulk Hogan left for WCW. And growing up, I was basically a fan of The Undertaker.
Mm.
And pretty much, I grew up watching him, looking up to him, everything. I was a huge fan of the Undertaker and Kane rivalry when Kane first came into WWE. My favorite match that got me into pro wrestling was Undertaker versus Kane in WrestleMania 14. That was the match that got me into pro wrestling.
Yeah, that was a very, very intense rivalry. And it was a great story too because of the way it was built up. Like when you had Paul Bearer on the Tron basically threaten The Undertaker with Kane's arrival, and his debut was just so iconic. I mean, you watch that back, that Hell in a Cell between Shawn Michaels and Undertaker, which was an incredible match in its own right. But that debut with Kane is one I feel like a lot of fans remember, still talk about to this day. And that WrestleMania match was really fascinating. I that's probably one of my favorite WrestleMania matches of all time, just because of how the story was built up and the match itself. Um, and their Inferno match was pretty good too the following month as well.
Yes, it was. And basically, I've been a fan of Undertaker and Kane ever since. And the one thing that really made me a pro wrestling fan is when Undertaker 2 years later came back as the American Badass and he just rode it on a motorcycle. I'm like, that's cool the way he did that. And he took a risk. I mean, it was either double or nothing
And
with
yeah,
that gimmick, and it worked out. But then years later, he went back to his dead man gimmick. But the American Badass was my personal favorite.
in wrestling, a lot of times you have to change up your gimmicks to keep things fresh in the eyes of the audience. And a lot of people were very skeptical at first of the American Bass, but I think now, in retrospect, a lot of people appreciate the change because it gave the dead man gimmick a break. And we were in the Attitude Era, which was very uh, smash mouth, rowdy, in your face type of wrestling. It was very it was a different time because it was the cartoony aspects of the business were gone, replaced by realistic, grounded approaches, and it was not gonna work in that time period. The American Badass definitely was a welcome change during that time.
Yeah, because Undertaker said during the Attitude Era, the whole dead man thing probably would not work. So we had to change things up. And a story about my gimmick. When I first started, I was just me. I was just me floating around with a gimmick. I did not know what to do with it. But then 2019, when I went into training, an idea popped up in my head. The Indiana Werewolf, because ain't nobody doing it in pro wrestling. So I stuck with that. My coaches loved it. And the Indiana Werewolf thing, one, I'm from Indiana. And two, uh, the idea came from two things. One, Stone Cold Steve Austin at the Texas Rattlesnake, right?
Hmm.
So I was thinking maybe I could copy off that, create the Indiana Werewolf. And also, my cousin in Indiana had this wolf dog hybrid thing. And that's where the idea came from. And the Indiana Werewolf has stuck with me ever since. And basically, I've just been dealing with theme songs that have werewolf or wolf in it to match my gimmick. So that's where it came from.
Yeah, it's part of creating a character is taking elements of things of people of characters that you like and kind of formulate and combine them into one, and being, liking the supernatural or dark paranormal figures, uh getting those influences help shape your characters. So coming up with that's very fascinating. um was there a point where you knew you wanted to be a wrestler? Like even back when you're talking about Undertaker and Kane, these characters, did you know right then and there you wanted to be a professional wrestler?
Yes, and to be honest, back then when I was a kid, I had no way to become a wrestler. I didn't become a wrestler in high school, which I should have. But looking back, watching those matches, I knew that if I were to become a wrestler one day, it was going to take a lot of hard work. But then Try to Chew Pro, where I first started, had an ad on Facebook saying, if you want to become a wrestler, we'll come into Try to Chew Academy right down the road from where I lived in Clarksville. I'm like, is this gonna finally happen? Am I gonna finally get this dream up and running? And basically put, there I go. 2018, I started training for Try to Chew Academy under Jeremiah Plunkett, who you may know, and Tom Latimer, who you or may not know was Bram in TNA. Now he's NWA World Heavyweight Champion. And a little bit of Crazy Steve, who just recently made his debut on AEW. And Crimson, or Anthony Mayweather, he owned it. And I basically spent 2018 and 2019 doing um, Try to do pro events. There's times where they do like benefits or charities, and I would help out with that. And 2019, 2018, 2019, I was doing these student showcases. And to be honest, that's where my dream took off. And then 2020 came,
Mm.
the pandemic, and training was shut down. But got to help out with TNA. Their tapings a whole year. And 2020, 2021, I took a break from pro wrestling, did seminars here and there. But in the year 2022, I finally got into the indies. 3 years of experience in the indies.
And the cool thing about the independent circuit is that the fans, uh, just as much as they are on in the mainstream, there's a lot you can do, a lot more freedom on the indies. There's a lot more freedom, it seems like, on the indies than on the mainstream promotions because you get to try out different things that may not necessarily work on TV.
Yes, sir. And I've now been wrestling in Tennessee, Kentucky, and Indiana. And in 2022, I went to this promotion called Nonstop Wrestling Alliance. It's in Paris, Tennessee. Feel free to come out if you want to check it out. And Swag Wrestling. And I basically started there, and I went to what was formerly known as Rocking Wrestling Federation in Gallatin. And then Kentucky went to NAWE. Indiana went to DPW. Basically, I've been to 12 promotions in these past 3 years. 12. And in 2024, I became a two-time hardcore champion. Two-time. And for me to have autism, Asperger's, and do this stuff, do you think there's anyone else? I know there's two, and I know so far. Brandon Wolfe and Charlie Pierce. That's who the only two I know who have autism.
You know, it's never easy to become a wrestler because you have to put your body through so much. I've had so many people on the show talk to me about their training experiences, learning drills and getting your body conditioned. It's a different kind of physical work. What was your experience like learning how to wrestle?
Fun, but also demanding and intimidating. And it will humble you very quick. I've had bruised ribs. I've had I've had problems with my neck, my back, my ankles. Basically put this is what you sign up for. Injuries are gonna come. I've had my finger smashed while putting the ring in the truck. And yeah, this stuff comes with the territory of wanting to become a wrestler. And you know what they say? Shit happens.
Any pieces of advice you got early on from your trainers that still apply today that stick with you?
One, slow down. Two, just take your time, have fun, no rush. Basically, if you mess up a move in a wrestling match, that's on you. Okay. You can always come back around and work on it. And basically, just have fun. And for me to be a two-time hardcore champion, I don't think that's the last championship I'm going to win. I promise you there will be more.
So far, you've in the wrestling business, you've been in the ring with so many competitors. Who have been some of your favorite opponents that you've gotten to work with over the years?
Honcho Hensley, Danny Ice, Jeremy Travis, Bam Bam Baker, Jeremiah Plunkett, and one is Stitches up at Demolition Pro Wrestling in Evansville. The other is Lilo, and also Daniel White, Devin Ozell, and those guys really pushed me to my limit, to be honest. And if you want to go interview them, you can pretty much add them on Facebook or message them. But I'm just blessed that I'm here doing this pro wrestling dream. And I don't think I have any plans of stopping. Maybe at the age of 40, we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I recently got to meet you at CHW show, Championship Honor Wrestling in Ashland City, Tennessee. Getting to introduce you in the Battle Royal. That was a pretty fun Battle Royal. What was it like being a part of that?
It was fun. And there is no one that can hit me more harder than Daniel White. Like the clothesline he gave me in the Battle Royal hurt like hell. And but to be honest, facing people you don't know is a little scary, but in order to work with them, it's fun, but also it's really intimidating when you face people you don't know.
It definitely looked like a lot of fun. It was very fun getting to call that and be a part of that. So I hope we see each other again at a future show. But you've also gotten to rub shoulders with some big names in the business. Who are some of the people you've gotten to meet in the industry so far as legends?
Jeff Jarrett, OGK, Matt Taven, and Matt Taven, Mike Bennett, Psycho Sid, Kevin Nash, Kid Cash. Basically, wrestlers I've grown up watching. I met Tommy Dreamer. I met Gallows and Anderson, who are the OC in WWE. Jacob Fatu, who is on the roll of a lifetime. He's on a very big run of a lifetime. And I predict mark this date. He is a future world champion in Jacob Fatu. He's a future world champion. I got to meet Lita. I met Jacob Fatu and Lita Starcast because I worked with both of them. And to see them, I just had fun. I got to go to Starcast. I watched a little bit of New Japan, Black Label Pro, GCW. GCW, Black Label Pro are two promotions I want to work with in the near future, and I would love to. I would love to wrestle in Japan. That's one of my main goals. I watch New Japan. I watch all kinds of Japanese wrestling on, YouTube and all that. I just would love to wrestling in Japan. That would be an honor for me. But I've seen how brutal they wrestle, and I've also seen Japanese hardcore wrestling. I'm like, am I ready for that yet? I don't know, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I wish you the best with that. If Japan is your goal, just shoot for the stars
Also,
and go for it.
wrestle in the UK.
That's another hotbed for wrestling outside of the U.S. as far as traveling. It's a big market there as well. So those are two good ones. Um, Now I want to talk about you and your story, because I think it's very inspiring. So if you want to share your story, feel free to go ahead and talk about it.
Growing up with Asperger's, form of autism, basically, I did not know I had it until 2006, 2007, because autism was new to me. I didn't know if I had it or not. Basically, I don't have that kind of autism, but I have like mild autism. Asperger's is a form of autism. That's what I have. And I've seen um, basically being with autism is a struggle. I watched Love on the Spectrum on Netflix, and basically looking at autism now, I've learned to accept it because it's who I am. And if I could become a wrestler with autism, then I could inspire those who want to as well, who have it as well, if they want to chase their dream.
Yeah, I mean it seems like you have a passion for what you do, and you have a desire to help others. Uh, Talk to me about some of the ways that you've helped out in your community over the years.
And basically, I started my career in sports 1999 Special Olympics, and started in Cheatham County. Then I went to Montgomery County, then Clarksville. Basically, I've done ice skating, roller skating, basketball, bocce ball, bowling. Pretty much that is the way for me to break out of my shell. And to be honest, I've lived with this autism since I was a kid. And to be honest, Special Olympics was a way for me to break out of my shell and do stuff that I never thought I would do. Then transitioning from Special Olympics to pro wrestling, I've basically been doing sports since 1999. So I've basically been in sports my whole life, but I haven't let it stop me so far. But to your credit, charities and all that. Basically, in pro wrestling, I've done benefit events where recently, in December, Honcho Hensley's brother was going through all this cancer stuff. So I decided to help out my brother, Honcho, and be at his event and wrestle so he could raise money for his brother, get through all that chemo, cancer stuff. I've also done, it's a charity organization, I think, Wrestling with Warriors up in Indiana, where Trying to Pro helped them out. And I went to a hospital where they have all these kids going through all this stuff, and it makes you humble knowing that life can be cut short like that. So I just try to enjoy every day that I can. And every day I wake up is a blessing. It's just grateful. That's the word, grateful. But to be honest, helping charities out, organizations, stuff like that, in any way in pro wrestling I can, whether it's for a benefit for somebody with cancer or soldiers, or do an event for soldiers. I mean, Try to Pro worked with TNA back in 2019 with a Salute to the Troops event. So yeah, any way I can help out pro wrestling, I can. Also, I worked with Nonstop Wrestling Alliance. We did a benefit show there for a friend of mine who just lost his child, and I'm proud to call that guy a brother. His name is Robert Murray, and basically, I've done charity events and benefits and stuff like that for pro wrestling.
Was there like a particular moment that just was just heartwarming for you as far as helping someone?
Yeah, if you have a child who's recently born and then you lose it, you lose that child, it hurts, and you are willing to help your friends out in any way, whether you know a wrestler who has a brother with cancer. Uh, anyway, it feels great to help them out and raise money to help them out. That's an awesome feeling right there.
Yeah. I mean, you just never know what people are going through. So many people are struggling. Just you may see them have a smile on their face 1 minute, but then the next minute they're just suffering because they've got so much happening in their life. It's so hard out there.
Yeah, it is. But anyway, I can help. I can.
Yeah. Well, anything that you feel that gives you the most joy as far as giving back.
If one day I could become a trainer or a person who could do creative, you know how creative is pro wrestling, I can. But also, if one day my career is over, if they want me to be a trainer, then I will, or help out with creative, I can. Because one day my career will be over and I'll just walk away from pro wrestling. Or maybe they just might have me do something, help out with creative, help out be a trainer, whatever. That's fine with me as part of giving back and helping out the future any way I can.
Yeah, it's all about helping the future stars out because they're the lifeblood of pro wrestling. And we need people to continue to rise. And so the wrestling business keeps on going, keeps on striving, because we need to see the future, you know, take their place in the squared circle. So I think you would be a perfect fit for that. And I am so happy that you have continued your journey and are finding ways to inspire people because so many people, like I said, have just been through a lot. And having someone uh, able to help contribute is just important.
Yes, sir.
Well, Dustin, this has been wonderful getting the chance to speak with you. I want to say thank you for coming on to the show. It means a lot to me and to my listeners and viewers that are watching this. Where can people find more about you on social media? How they can get in touch with you, follow you, get updated on all the exciting things that you're doing?
Yes, sir. My Instagram, lone underscore wolf underscore indie, and my Facebook is Dustin Wolfe.
All right. Well, Dustin, best of luck. I hope to see you at a future show, and you're more than welcome to come back onto Wrestling with Heart in the future.
Yes, sir. You're welcome.
All right, take care.
You too, sir.
Bye-bye. This is Wrestling with Heart. I hope you found this podcast to be informative and entertaining. If you did, please hit the subscribe button and look out for the next edition.